have this. Oh, you lost again.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just listening.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah, it's a little bit crackly. It's like there's a loose connection occasionally, but it's fine. I can hear you, and most of the time I'll be talking. So.
Okay. Well, I'll go with it. I don't know what's going on with it, but Discord is saying it's muted. But if you can hear me, then we'll go with it.
Yeah, I can definitely hear you. It's so weird. Maybe it's a Discord software issue. Right. Well, anyway, welcome. Did you hear what I was?
My headset.
Okay. Yeah. It might be.
I could hear you. I could hear you.
Okay, so you heard me slating this Ferrari and GT3s on iRacing in general.
I did not hear that part.
Oh, right, okay. I was just saying how I thought you're mad committing to driving this horrible, oversteery beast that wants to kill you all the time, where a tiny bit of extra tyre temperature means you've got no rear grip whatsoever. Unless the setup I've been on is completely wrong. I'm on Daytona Endurance, and I just got that from the iRacing setups.
Yeah, that's what we're trying.
Okay. So... oh, here we go. Yeah.
I usually just use the normal setup, but
there we go. I can see
your screen. This is what Phil suggested we try Daytona, so I said that's fine.
Yeah, cool. And what fuel level are you using? I've run with basically what it gives you, which is like maximum fuel, I guess, at the beginning of a stint.
I'm assuming that's what I've done. I haven't changed.
Yeah. Okay. So that's no. I'm sure that it'll be the same. If you've just got the standard setup, then it'll be the same. Unless this series, for some reason, restricts how much fuel you're allowed, which I don't know whether it does, then this should be right. So we'll just run with exactly how it is. You know the tracks, that's good. I think going with dry is probably better for a session like this. Unless you know the race was definitely 100% wet, then I think...
I don't know that.
I think dry is, for a coaching session, much easier to keep a track of. Are you getting better, or are the conditions just getting better? If it's wet, then you don't really know, because it'll vary so dramatically.
Right.
So I think we just run with it like this. Everything apart from the wetness level is the same. I set this session up from the official session. So temperatures, etc., all of that kind of thing should be, as close as we can get it. So I guess let's go do some laps. We'll get some data for you in these conditions, and... you might find there's places that you're quicker than me, in which case I'm going to tell you to keep doing them the same. And then we might find some areas where we can find some time. But I've done like an hour's worth of driving here this morning, so I've got a decent handle on what it feels like. Right. So let's do it.
That sounds good. Is this a good... is this a good placement for my camera?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was looking at your... on board. How do I see your camera?
Well, I guess that's...
all I can see is your...
I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, so... Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, is that a good placement for your view? I thought you meant like a webcam.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, just remind me. We're on triple screens, aren't we?
We're on triple screens.
So I'm only seeing your center screen, but it
Correct.
looks...
You want me to share the whole thing?
No, this is fine. I mean, because basically, you can see my screen too, right, now? And so you can see my center screen as well, effectively.
Not quite yet, but because I had it, I don't see it when it's. Let's see, I can't see your screen. Right
so
now.
if you
maybe it's because I'm sharing my screen.
I think you can if you click on the little icon of Get Faster Faster on the left. So kind of top left of your screen.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
You should be able to see both, because I'm looking at both, but
oh, you know what? It must have been because I was in the chat. That would be why. Not.
So if you...
There we go. Okay, that's better.
So if you can see mine, you can see my center screen. So you'll see how much of the car and windscreen and everything I've got visible. It's pretty similar to yours by the looks of it.
It's very similar. Yeah.
So I think we're basically the same, give or take a couple of degrees of field of view. So whatever you're comfortable with. I like to have a pretty clear view of what's in front, but without being too zoomed in on the track in front, because I want peripheral vision. I think the peripheral vision is quite important. Yeah, so you can see basically some of your left roll cage and the vents on your bonnet. That's almost identical, to be honest. So it's really just what you're comfortable with from there. As long as you've got enough peripheral vision that you get a sensation of speed with objects going past the side of the car, and you can see the mirrors to an extent. I can't see my right mirror because it's obscured by the netting, like the driver protection netting.
Yeah, I can't see my right mirror either, but my left mirror, frankly, I don't have any images on my left mirror.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. It's more the left door window,
Yeah.
so you can see stuff going past you. That's really the thing that the triples are for. So you can feel the speed. It looks good anyway. Right. Sorry, I'll shut up. I'll get back out of my car. You don't need to see mine. Let's go do some laps.
All right. And I don't mind the Ferrari GT3 anyway. I mean, they have those 15-minute races that I do.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I find them very... they feel like they weigh 10 tons to me when I drive GT cars on a sim.
That's how I feel with the GT4s, but...
Okay, yeah, and I feel even worse with them.
I've driven them in real life, so...
Yeah, and that's how they feel in real life as well, in my opinion. A GT3... I haven't driven a GT3 race car, but all of my friends who have tell me that they're much easier to drive than an equivalent GT4, even though they're much faster. Because they're designed to go fast, rather than being a road car modified, so...
Alright, I need to stop driving like I'm warmed up here.
Okay, I'm just going to watch the first couple of laps here, but with these cars, I don't think you need really more than one lap of tyre prep. However, if you overdrive on the first lap, then the tyre temperature spirals out of control and you lose a lot of grip. So it's like a sensible outlap or a sensible first lap is what I tried to do without any kind of oversteer. I actually clicked the traction control up to 6 or 7. It's on 4 or 5 by default, I think. So I went up a couple of clicks just to protect the rear tyres so you didn't fall into that temperature spiral. Ultimately, it's probably... see how you do. If you find you are struggling with progressively worse oversteer, then yes, start off with a higher traction control setting. I struggled when it allowed the rear tyres to spin too easily, but it's probably technically slightly quicker with the lower levels if you get it right, but not a lot.
Alright.
This is obviously going to feel quite different if you've been driving a lot of wet laps.
Feels so much better.
I can imagine. I haven't done a lot of wet weather iRacing, to be honest. Maybe over the winter, when I'm at home a lot more, I'll get a chance.
I think it's better than it was.
See,
it was going so well.
See, there's no damage, by the way, so you can just reverse up and carry on. The car will be fine. You didn't really do anything, wrong there. Obviously, you did something that induced some oversteer, but you certainly weren't doing anything clearly or obviously to induce a horrible slide. But these cars just do that. Like, they don't need any excuse to just begin a little bit of momentum oversteer, and then it's like, yeah, I'm just going to carry on until you spin.
You really don't like these cars.
No, I never drive the GT3 car. I only ever do them because people race them and we do coaching sessions. That's the only time I ever touch them.
But you like the LMP3 and
anything lightweight, yeah, anything lightweight that doesn't have this momentum feel to it, like where the slides begin because of the weight of the car. Yeah, I feel a lot because you can't feel the G-force. I think that's why. If this is real, you get so much more of an early warning that it was happening. Again, there, like, okay, you went in a little bit fast, and that's the only thing you can avoid doing. That should fix itself. There you go. You've got your front end again. But
I think my braking point's too late there.
Yeah, we probably just went in a fraction quick that time. But you'd have got away with it in most other iRacing cars, and in this one you just don't. So the front engine ones aren't as bad.
Yeah, one thing I realized yesterday is if you just cut the chicane and go straight, you get a slowdown, but no off track.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And if you're racing in the wet, you don't have to worry about the slowdown because, well, at least I'm not fast enough to on the slowdown.
Okay, so that's a really good little hack.
Yeah, although something tells me if I abused that, I would just be kicked.
Yeah, someone would report you. That's the thing. But you shouldn't... It's annoying that you have to rely on someone reporting. That should just be automatically sorted out. So it just needs to become an off-track, doesn't it? And then it will be fine.
Exactly.
So I'll wait until we've got a couple of representative laps on before I start critiquing you, because I don't want to tell you to do stuff which is just, you know, things that you're doing because you're getting used to it. Yeah, and although it's kind of tempting to use a lot of the off-track there, and you can, for sure, use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card when you need it, I found that I was generally quicker when I didn't go very wide. I'd find more time by going a little bit wide, but staying with my right tyres on the curb. That was a lot tidier.
No, I know what I'm doing there and that other... I'm turning too much when my speed's up too high.
So I'm going to just take a look at exactly what speed you were doing when you went in.
Track temperature's rising. It's now 21 Celsius.
Yeah, so that definitely was... Although it doesn't visually look like you're going crazy fast on the way in, it's definitely fast enough that you're having to carry the brakes on into the corner significantly, and just it takes all the weight off the rear and kills it. So actually, I'm just going to see how much faster you were. So there's a little drain. You're doing 211k at the drain. Just going to see what I was doing. Just whilst you get back to the start. Let's have a look. So you were doing 211k at the drain. Yeah, you were 20 kilometers an hour faster than I was doing when you were entering that corner. So you're correct. And I would say at this point, your rear tyres are probably really overheated or not in great condition. So if it keeps trying to kill you on this next lap, I would just reset and take a fresh set of tyres. It's like you, with one big slide or a spin, it really shoots the rear tyre temperature up massively, and you've just got no grip to work with. So although I'm not glad it's tricky for you, I am glad that I'm not going crazy and it wasn't just me that was struggling with the rear end of this car. And the way I found to get around it was to essentially underdrive on corner entry and just be very smooth with, like, be accurate with apexes rather than trying to carry lots of entry speed, and then just being very, very smooth on throttle on the exit. In short, like, you can't get away with carrying a large amount of brakes into a corner because the rear end just gets too light. And once it breaks away even a little bit, it wants to keep going.
I think I need to have a harder initial brake and then...
You can still trail the brakes, but you've got to do a much smaller proportion of your brake as a trail than in some of the other cars. And what I was saying about traction control, you haven't been losing the rear on throttle. So at this point, I don't think it would have affected you at all, having higher amount of traction control. You're only losing the rear on entry. Off throttle, basically.
Okay.
And yeah, the only cure for that is slower entry speed or harder straight line braking, less turning braking. And obviously the problem with that is it means you're going slower on the entry, which can lose your time versus a car which could go in quicker. And you've got less weight on the nose when you're approaching the apex because you can't trail as aggressively. But you have to just deal what the car allows you with this one. That was really nice and neat into there. That was cool.
I love that turn so much.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, so let's complete this one and maybe do one more. See if we can go any closer to your optimal time, because you've obviously gained a lot of time in some of those sectors. So let's just do, yeah, that's good. 148, that's really good. So let's do one more and then we'll have a little review. And you can have some fresh tyres. Yeah, so that amount of curb on the exit seems pretty good to me. You probably already know this, but as long as you've got one tyre touching that curb, it doesn't tend to give you an off-track. And I can see there's still time coming, so this is good. So you'll naturally find a bunch of time. We'll just work on the obvious low-hanging fruit and accelerate you up to that point. But yeah, you're already just you're already finding 7/10 in one sector, so there's plenty of time still coming.
You can't just slam on the gas. I keep doing it there.
Yeah. It's interesting because you'd think in a car with traction control you get away with slightly more aggressive throttle, but it kind of allows a bit of tyre slip and then it grabs it. So it lets the problem happen and then saves it, and it's too late. Okay, so there were some really good parts about that lap, but let's just stop it there, and we'll have a look at that data. Unless I was going to say, unless you wanted to just nail turn one and see how it went. Sometimes I tell people, okay, we're going to look at the data, and they're already on a really good next lap, and I don't want to stop it. Right, okay, but you can have fresh tyres for the next one. Let's have a look at the data. Let's bring that in. So I think, before I even look at this, I think the main area you're going to gain some time is finding the best middle ground between what you were doing initially, going in a bit too quick, and what you were doing in some of those corners towards the end, which was safely getting through by kind of over slowing into some of them. So there's going to be a slightly higher speed entry available, but without using the brakes very much. So kind of like a coasting phase, which you wouldn't do in some other cars. And I think that's what we're going to see on some of these laps. So let's go with this.
Yeah, that's not something I do much.
And that was your fastest lap there. Okay, we're both blue. Let's make you red. Here we go. Right, so here we go then. Can you see my screen, by the way?
I can.
Cool, so you're red, I'm blue, and this should be a relatively clear thing to look at. So let's just go through it corner by corner. In general, though, you're using pretty similar gears to me. You're a gear higher than me through the bus stop, so that's something we'll look at in a moment, see why a different gear might be better. You are using a bit more steering angle than me in some of the corners, but we'll look at those specifically when we get there, because that might be something that can help you by using less of that, so we'll look at that. But in general, it's what you'd normally expect, isn't it? It's a couple of places where the minimum speed is lower than it could be. So here. Not here, interestingly. So this right-hander, your minimum speed's higher, but we can look at whether or not that makes it worse. And then there, and then obviously the final corner there as well. So basically, in general, it's minimum speeds. But if we go in a little bit more detail, so let's just go turn 1, for example, it's not so much the minimum, although there is a difference there. It's how you arrive at your minimum and how you can see my blue line here, although we kind of match each other for braking in the early phase. As we get closer and closer to the corner, my braking pressure reduces a little bit and yours carries on, and that's when we get down to that lower minimum. So for turn 1, just as one example, we've got the potential to just carry a bit more speed through, as long as, if I zoom in on the map, as long as we really nail that apex. Now, that probably just wasn't a great example of you doing turn 1. You've probably done it better on other laps. But the fact that you ran wide, even though you were going quite a lot slower, so you shouldn't... The car should turn in better than my car's turning in, but you've run a bit wider. That suggests that maybe we just didn't actually turn the wheel as tight in this corner. So let's have a look and see if that was the case. And I think it was down here. I know it's not easy to look at when the lines are so close here, but it's like 20 degrees. We've got like 20 degrees difference between us in that turn 1. Let's just take it to there. So you can see there's like a slight more... I'm a bit more happy to kind of wind on some peak steering angle in that corner. So I think turn 1 is just going to be a case of getting off the brakes a fraction earlier and making sure we hit the curb. Let's actually just watch what yours look like, though, because I want to see that. Because sometimes there might be a different mitigating factor that data's not showing. Let's just watch it. The reason I'm focusing on this turn 1 so much, yeah, okay, it's because it leads on to such a long, fast section. If you can make a bit of a gain here, you're going to carry quite a long gain. So basically, it looks to me on this lap at least that you just weren't focused on hitting that apex curb. Let's just go down a little bit lower. My main focus here is obviously slowing it down enough so I don't run really, really wide, but almost like level with that priority is making sure I touch that inside curb, because if I manage to hit that inside curb and I'm going relatively fast, I know, okay, all the ingredients are there to get a really nice exit. If I'm going relatively fast and can't hit the curb, I know I'm going wide and I need to keep slowing down. And if I hit the curb but I'm going slow, I'm going to get a slow exit regardless. So it's kind of, you've got to line those two things up. And you see, you turn in late enough that you're way off. And that's going to be quite a big time loss through there. I would also have to slow it down to the same speed as you if I wanted to go this deep and that tight. So just as, I just want to see actually how much curb I'm using, because this was about 45 minutes ago and I can't remember. So it's only that much. So, okay, so that's interesting. I'm not trying to go on the high bit of the curb because it kind of unsettles the car. But I'm definitely trying to get on the flat bit. Like, really, really trying to use it. So that's probably, that highlights it quite clearly. It's that point there. You can actually see where the car goes. Like, it's quite an early, bam, like very, very deliberately forcing it towards that curb. And there's not really any handling imbalance. It just kind of goes where I tell it. And I'm not even going that far off the track on that one. So the main focus then, I'll shut up about this corner in a sec. Main focus is just hit that curb, and then I think we'll see an increase in minimum speed from that. So I wouldn't even think about trying to go through it faster. I just initially think about hit that inside curb. That'll then mentally free you up to carry more power because you'll see, okay, the trajectory I'm on means this speed is working. Whereas when you miss that curve, you don't really have a reference for am I running wide or am I just deliberately going slightly deeper. So there we go. So I'll make a note here whilst we're here, just so I don't forget what we're talking about. Be very deliberate about hitting the flat part of the curve. I'll add you to this analysis in a minute. I've just realised actually you're not in here. Are you Brad or Bradley on here? Let's just try surname. Why can't I see you? There you are. Yeah, you're Bradley. Okay, got it. Okay, so next section. So we spent ages on that, but there's that one little loss then adds up and adds up and adds up all the way down this straight. So you have like an extra 2/10 by the time you get to the bus stop. Right, okay, so bus stop, let's just take this whole section. You are being sensibly cautious on the entry, but that does mean you're slowing it down a little bit earlier than me. And what you're doing is, you're getting rid of the same amount of speed as me, roughly. I know this bit in the middle is different, but that's because I'm on the throttle. In terms of getting into the corner, you're getting down to a similar kind of speed, but you're doing it with one big braking event early on, and then you're not really like braking after that. You've got this tiny, tiny nibble on the brakes here, but really it's this big one here that does all your deceleration. Whereas I'm braking less and later, but less, but doing it twice. So I'm kind of going brake enough to get into the right-hander, and then braking again enough to scrub off the speed for the left-hand part. And that means you can go the maximum possible speed into the right and also be doing the correct speed for the left. Whereas what you're doing is you're slowing it down for the speed you need for the left-hander, but before you've gone into the right-hander, if that makes sense. And that's why you've got this kind of extra bit of deceleration on the entry here. So if you can, what we want to do on the next run is go through the right-hand part just a little bit faster. What is the actual speed? Like 20k, which is hard to judge, but just like a little bit, kind of just slightly faster on the right, but don't do as heavy braking as early as you were before. And then just another little touch just before you turn left. And that then gives you the freedom, especially if you do it in conjunction with going down an extra gear, so down to third gear, that gives you the freedom to get harder on the power in the middle at the right angle, rather than like pushing wider and wider and wider all the way through and thinking like, okay, I know I'm going wide, but at least I got a quick entry. It gives you the freedom to get it rotated and blast out of the corner, actually facing where you want to go. So let's just see how it... Well, since we're on with mine, I'll just skip to my bit, because you'll see my inputs. Oh, look, my clutch is slightly on.
Your braking point.
So I'll do it in full speed, and then I'll do it slower. And I'll leave this up. So brake, off, brake. And you see how tight it is and how early I'm able to get back on the power. So it's like basically loads of curb, but I'm down to third gear here. And I'm not letting it run wide at all. I'm immediately going back over this curb. And I think I could have used more if I'd been even more accurate. So in slow-mo, just in terms of the braking point, roughly at the 300 meter board, there. Mid amount of brake, and then really reducing it over the curb on the right. And then a secondary brake here when you're in a straight line, and then off again over the curb, and you've kind of done the deceleration. It lets the car really rotate. I'm not trying to go deep and wide. Let's just look at yours from the outside there. Again, this is a section where it looks like there's quite a bit of time. If you nail this, you're going to find quite a lot of lap time. So let's have a look. Although I can't see your brake and everything, we can hear it. Yeah, so really the biggest difference is how wide it's pushing you here.
I see that.
And that means you can't get on the power as early or as hard. And because it's still like slowing down a bit, look, even down to there, this is your minimum speed at this point. Really, we want our minimum speed to be like here. So you can be back on the power all the way through here. And then you'll get a quick exit. But that does rely on you being down to third gear, because it'll be really bogged down. If you're here in fourth gear, it'll be like, and I know it's only a short straight, like here to here effectively, but you'll just get a lovely blast of acceleration out of there. And the data kind of backs that up. This bit here, like where my speed carries on up to there, that's, apart from the entry speed, really that's the biggest difference. And that is all from being in third gear and being tighter to that second curb in the middle of the chicane. So there we go. That's a nice, it's not easy. I was going to say it's a nice easy time gain. It's a nice obvious time gain, but but it's really hard to put it into practice because obviously it's easy to spin in that corner. But the one thing I'd say is, before we move on to the next one, is I'm actually going slower than you as I go over the first of the apex curbs. So my car is even more settled than yours. It's just I've got down to that speed a little bit later. But I'm not trying to go through the chicane faster than you. In fact, through the middle of the chicane, I'm a little bit slower than you by like 6 kilometers an hour. So you don't have to try and go through it faster. You just need to enter it slightly faster, get down to 1 gear lower, and exit it with more throttle because you've been so accurate with your slower minimum speed, if that makes sense. And that's when you'll get this nice exit. So there we go. And then, right, let's move on to the next one. This right-hander here looks really good, to be honest. So you're coming at it from a lower speed, but we get to a pretty similar minimum speed. You're just having to go a bit slower because you've gone in slightly earlier. So I've just delayed my turn in a fraction, and that's just allowed this minimum speed here to be a little bit higher for me. But it's not huge. I'd say don't worry too much about this one, because how you enter this is going to be affected by how quickly you do the bus stop chicane on the next run. So let's forget that bit for the moment. Then we've got this short straight where we're roughly the same. So let's skip down to this bit. So this bit here, we definitely get up to basically the same speed. In fact, you're going slightly quicker than me on the entry, and you're actually braking slightly later than me there. How many meters? 6.8, 6 meters. It's not huge, but it's enough that you can see there's a speed difference on the entry. But the big difference, I don't even need to tell you this, the big difference is a hugely different minimum speed, because we're taking extremely different approaches to the line into here. So you're massively sacrificing entry speed. It looks deliberate here to get a much easier exit, and you are getting an easier exit. You can see by how much narrower you're able to come off. It's a way easier exit. But you can also see from the data, and this is why I love the data, that the benefit you get from that, as in where our speed lines are closing, is not remotely enough to sacrifice that entry. In fact, you never get back to the same speed as I've carried through the middle there. You never overlap and go back ahead. So it's an experiment, but it's a failed experiment there. So I would say don't bother going wide. The corner is too long and too open and smooth to get that benefit. There's not enough of a clear, defined apex point. Like, it's not a sharp enough corner with a long enough following straight to bother. So just go in earlier. Having said that, as we found out before, the trouble with going in earlier is it means you're braking whilst you're steering. So there's got to be a way.
That's why I think that's why I'm going wide there, is because I'm sacrificing that.
You're trying to brake straighter for longer. Exactly.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is come off the brakes slightly earlier. This is when I was saying we're going to have like a bit of a coasting phase where you're just using the front tyre scrub to slow it down to the speed you need there. You can see it's a relatively flat apex profile on the speed line. So your one's got like a point there because obviously you're going in and you're turning tighter here. So you've got a kind of singular minimum speed. Mine's kind of similar here to here. It drops about 1 or 2k between there and there, but it's not like I'm not braking. You can actually see on the brake trace down here, I've finished braking by here, but the minimum speed carries on dropping down to like there. So that's clearly like a coasting phase, although actually I am tickling the throttle, but just ignore that for the moment because I'm still slowing down. Basically, there's this point here where we're just like waiting, just like in free fall, waiting for it to scrub. Even if you don't perfect that, even if you do a bit of a crappy version of that whilst you get used to it, it's going to be much faster for your lap time than going deeper like you are there. That's quite a big time loss. In fact, put it into numbers. You're 1.2 down there, and then before the braking point for the next corner. Yeah, we've lost like 0.7 of a second in this one corner sequence. So that's even if you only lose like 0.3 of a second, that's a huge gain. So essentially, as you're going into that corner, get your braking done, and then when you feel you're going slow enough, which is difficult to put a finger on, but it's roughly what you're already doing, because you're already at 136k there, and I'm 5-6k faster than that, so that's fine. Just get off the brakes, roll towards the apex, which is a bit further round, and then just really smoothly pick up the gas, as you already are. We'll just try that. In short, go in earlier, but nice and gently still. Be really patient. You're going to come off with a green delta. That's it. Okay. So that's that one. I appreciate for quite a simple track, we're going into quite a lot of detail, but I just want you to have a very, very clear direction. Let's look at the second half of the lap here. Okay, so this tight uphill right-hander. Okay, there's time to be gained, but let's not worry about that one too much for the moment because you're really not doing it very poorly. And I think you did this section better on your lap, which didn't count. So let's hold fire on that. What you're doing is good. You're slowing it down significantly, and then you can see you're bleeding off the brakes in this section here. And, you know, our speed lines are roughly similar there. You just haven't completely nailed the same profile. You've gone in a tiny bit too fast, but not the end of the world. So don't worry about that one. We'll come back to that if we need to. And what you're doing on this as well is quite similar. You're braking hard and then bleeding off towards the apex. But this one, so you know where we are on the track here, it's before the final kind of complex. I think you're, again, trying to go in slightly too fast. So that hairpin we just spoke about, that I said not to worry about, and this following one, both pretty slow corners. Both of them, you're entering them significantly faster than I am, and that's then pushing you wide on the exit both times. So, long story short, just be slightly slower at the apex for those two. And that
you're braking on both and slightly later. Not
yes,
but
later and harder, exactly. And still trailing a little bit here. And both of them, actually, I've got quite a similar, you see like these little kind of, like, just real fine braking moments just to adjust the speed. This is a really stupid analogy. Like a spaceship docking with the space station where it's like little thrusters just firing like little bits just to perfect the final trajectory. And that's kind of what these little touches are. But mainly it's arrive at the minimum speed slightly lower, like earlier and slightly slower. But you're right, that harder braking initially, even though it's slightly later, will help with that. And then we've got these final corners. Okay, so what can we do differently here? You're not going too quickly into this one, which is good. Why are we slightly slower? Okay, you're going in a little earlier. Okay, yeah, so you've gone for... I don't expect you to remember all this, by the way, because we've gone over loads. But, yeah, this third to last corner, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, third to last corner. You're just going in slightly earlier. It's quite natural to do that line, actually. I've tried that a few times. I've just found what it means is you have to do exactly what's happened to you. You have to really drop the minimum speed down a little bit more to go that tight. You're not losing a giant amount of time there. You can delay the turn in slightly for that. You still have to be very, very smooth on the throttle, pretty much like you are being, actually. But, again, I'm not going to worry too much about that one. I want to see what you do when you've had a few more laps of practice. These final two, though, I think there's easier lap time to be found. So let's go here.
I see you braking on that kind of penultimate turn where I'm just lifting.
Yeah, but the reason I'm braking is because I'm going in quicker. So you're having an early, big lift, and I'm having a later, smaller lift, which entails I need a little bit of brake just to keep the weight on the nose. So that's why. Let's just show you that, actually. So if we just go to there on your car, skip past these bits for the moment. Oh, actually, whilst I'm skipping past, I'm also seeing why maybe the minimum speed was not quite right, or yeah, we've gone a bit wide a bit early for that one. Okay, but again, you were going quicker into it than me, so that'll help by going slower. How about this one? You're going quicker than me into here as well, and again, it's making it hard to reach the apex. Yeah, so slightly slower at the final phase of the entry and slightly tighter. Yeah, you'll gain quite a lot because the corners are long here, and these cars are slow. They're not slow, but they're slow compared to some other iRacing cars. Going wide hurts you more. And then we went into this one a tiny bit. It doesn't look that early to me, actually, but we are slightly wide again there. Oh, you made a decent late apex. So again, that's why I say don't worry too much about that one. Okay, so here. Yeah, line looks good. It's just I can hear. I know you can't hear it, but I can hear this big lift that we're talking about. So I can hear that. Whereas I'll just load mine, and this will be the final thing we look at, because you will this is like, what's this analogy where they're painting in the UK? It's called painting the Forth Road Bridge. It's where they're painting a massive bridge, and by the time you've finished painting the last bit, the first bit needs painting again. It's like that. Like you've forgotten about the first thing I said. You can see how much later I'm turning into that third to last corner. Look, it's right out here. And then, I didn't even make it to the apex properly. But it just allows a slightly higher speed. Right, anyway, this is the one we were talking about. So I'm on the throttle, full throttle until here, so the 100. lifting with a teeny bit of brake, but it's like a double pedal. It's like both to balance the speed. I don't want all the weight on the nose, but I also don't want to understeer wide. So just at full speed, I'm going to show the cockpit view so it gives you the proper view. It's actually one of the easier corners, I find, that one, even at that higher speed. So I think there's basically just a little bit more pace in the car than you're taking at the moment. And then final corner. So we've got a few corners where you're going in a bit slower. We've got a few corners where you're going in a bit quicker. This is one of those ones where you're attempting it faster than me, but it's making you have to slow down a bit more on the exit. Great brake profile, though. Look at that. Like, it's almost identical to mine. It's just a bit later. So basically the final corner... Yeah, later and slightly longer, yeah. So final corner... It's longer because it has to be, because you're going quicker at this point. So you're like, whoa, just slowing it down a bit more. Mm-hmm. But I'm also going... I'm a gear lower on through that fast left. And before that, I just noticed that. I'm not bothering going up to... look, you're flat out. Yeah, look, I have a little lift, but that's obviously because I'm going a bit wide or getting oversteer or something. So let's just do a quick recap so you don't forget, because I didn't make any more notes after the first one. Turn 1, aim for the apex, and then the speed will follow from that. This is all easy, we don't need to worry about it. Bust up chicane, we can go faster into the right-hand part by a few kilometres an hour with a gentler brake, gentler later brake. Then you'll have a second brake between the right and the left. So when the car is straight, after you've gone into the right, you kind of brake to then go left. Down to third gear, not fourth. And that should allow you to accurately accelerate out of that corner, hitting the second apex curb. So this one here is the key to unlocking this extra speed just there and this time gain. Then we've got the long right-hander here we're not really worrying about. The left-hander, don't bother going as deep and as wide. Slow it down similarly to what you're currently doing, but near the end, roll off the brakes and just let the front tyres scrub you down to the minimum speed by the apex there, and still be super smooth on the gas on the exit. Then we've got the uphill right-hander and then the next right-hander, the two tight corners that follow that sweeping section. You can go in slightly slower, but you'll come off quicker. Just make sure, again, like turn 1, the focus is on being tight to the apex at the correct time, rather than like scrubbing wide because we've tried to go in a little bit too fast. So slower is going to be faster in those two, as long as you're accurate at the apex, because that will just lift your apex speed. But the main thing before that was the not going in too wide for that sweeper. And then we've got final complex, slightly simpler, this bit. So actually, sorry, from here onwards. There we go. You can go in slightly later for this tight left-hander. Don't really try and go in a whole lot faster. Just going in later will allow you to carry a little bit more minimum speed. Try staying in third gear for that left-hander, the penultimate corner, and just lift a bit later, basically. If you need a touch of the brakes, then you can, but just send it in a bit quicker, that's all. You don't get an off-track for going wide there unless you go super wide. So worst thing that will happen is you'll be in an awkward position for the final corner, but you can at least try it relatively safely. And then final corner, actually going slightly slower. And just drive off it earlier on the throttle. You go in, you're later off the gas, but you're also later on the gas, and that's the thing that hurts you on the exit there. So that's it. So let's give that a try. Sorry, that was a lot of talking by me on that one. So let's go.
Let's see what I can do here. Hold on, let me share. I'll share my screen again.
Yeah, I'm back on board with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's do it. And again, outlap, you don't have to go slow, but just try to, like, the way I'm picturing it in these cars is not trying to put too much energy into the tyres. I want them to be warm and not, I don't know how much iRacing simulates this, but not kind of shiny and covered in their releasing agent. Probably doesn't simulate that at all. But I don't want them to be hot, because I'm going to get them hot the moment I'm through turn 1, basically, on the flying lap. And they've come out of tyre blankets anyway.
So I think what I'm feeling there is feeling like the car it's turning appropriately, but I'm registering it as oversteer.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to correct
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. And it's good to be aware of that. It's good to not like, because it might oversteer at some point. So it's good to be prepared to open up the steering if necessary. But like you say, don't, what's the right phrase here? Like, don't correct something which isn't happening if you can help it. It's so common. I see this in real world coaching as well. People doing steering movements or compensating for a thing that hasn't actually happened. It's not stupid to think it might happen, but just building an accurate view of whether or not it really is going to be key. So yeah, good. Already, I know that wasn't like the fastest you've done, but I can already see the direction you're going there with a better exit. So turn 1, it's the apex that's the focus. Okay, so we went in a little early that time. So you got to the apex, but you can see from how wide we went, we just turned in quite early, that's all. So we'll just leave that a little bit later next time. I'm going to just watch exactly where you went in there.
I think I hit that upper curb.
Yeah, you did. And that's because you went in so early. So, yeah, no problem. We'll fix that for next time. You turned in at the 100-meter board. We're going to go like 50 meters past that next time. Oh, nice. Lovely. So I'll get rid of your slowdown, but you made a massive time gain there. So I know we then ended up going into there too fast. But, I mean, already it looked like you were 4 or 5 tenths up from that chicane, so that's good. And here, look at the green flow. So, yeah, we are naturally going to lose a little bit on the exit. But we're still 2 tenths up-ish, even though that was your first attempt at doing that. So, when you perfect that, there's going to be bucket loads of lap time. So that oversteer.
Not going at all.
So that is a moment I've had in every car you can imagine on this track in that corner, and the only cure I found for it is that slightly later turn in. I'm just going to watch exactly back again. Yeah, so essentially, you went in at a pretty sensible turn-in point, and the rear just started going on throttle mid-corner. Your tyres might have already been a little bit overheating at that point, so you didn't do anything crazy. Right, so this time, don't turn in at the 100-meter board. Stay to the left past the 100-meter board. And then go for the apex. So, slightly earlier than that. So, there's obviously quite a sweet spot in between where you went there and where you went on the previous lap. But you're nearly there with that. I'll try and be more objective with it. But you were really good with this chicane last time. So I think we just I think we just entered that right-hander at quite a high speed, that's all. You're coming off the chicane quicker than before, so you're entering the right-hander faster than before as well.
And I dropped down in the chicane too early into third.
Yep, well spotted. It's not the end of the world if you do that, but yeah, it's better if you can just delay it a fraction. Okay, so just be extremely careful with your throttle application through here. It's going to try and spin you around. Good job. And stay in this gear and just carry good speed into here. Okay, so next time just stay in third into that one.
Or realize that as
yeah, it's because I'm watching a slight delayed version, so I didn't tell you early enough, I think. Okay, so this time we're going to find the sweet spot with the turn in. So after the 100, but not that far after it. Okay, so I think although your turning point was actually quite good there, you slowed it down a little bit more than you should have done, and it turned in too well, if that makes sense. So that's why it went straight over the high part of the curb. So I think you found the turning point. Now we just need to enter the corner a fraction quicker. And I think we probably were slightly too fast in there. Yeah, let's just see what your entry speed there was.
More brake.
So we arrived at the curb at 190k. I'm just going to, without looking at the data, because I can't look at that until we finish. I'm just going to see the speed difference. Okay, so you didn't arrive at the curb too fast, so it must have been hanging on to the brakes a bit hard whilst you were turning. Yeah, because you were doing 10k less than I was at that point. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. You're getting a good feel through there now.
I felt good about that.
Yeah, that's much better. And that's way better. You delayed your throttle much more through there, so this is good. You've got to basically just get round the corner before you start picking up the throttle. If you go too early, it pushes you really wide.
Same with that turn.
Yeah, there's a bit more speed you can carry through there, but that was nice and neat. And that's really where the starting point needs to be. Yeah, good. That's neat as well. Okay, so stay in third for this left-hander this time and just carry a little bit more speed. And then back on the gas as early as you can. So we'll find the perfect sweet spot there. Oh, and don't forget to turn right for that one. That was just a little bit late getting it turned in.
Now I realized that I was carrying too much speed and turning while braking did that.
I'm just watching that back. Yeah, you braked probably 30 or 40 meters later than I do for that one.
Alright, so I'll brake earlier.
Yeah, just make the focus of the final corner, again, being like smooth and accurate rather than fast on the entry. I think we didn't get down.
I saved it.
Yeah, you survived. I think we were one gear too high into turn one that time, so I didn't want to turn.
Gonna do it this time.
So I lost connection with you through there, so I actually didn't see what happened. It all froze. So I'm going to just assume it was brilliant.
It was not great, but not terrible.
So I think, judging by what I could see, I think you were maybe just a tiny bit too fast through the middle of the chicane, and that meant you couldn't maximise the exit. But you were at least, you know, under control for the most part. So maybe let's do one more lap, and then we can get a fresh set of tyres, and try another run. Because some of this is way better. We just haven't had all your best bits on the same lap. That was much better. Okay, so same again. You can carry even higher speed through here. Good stuff.
Napa Voters here.
And I'm pretty sure I'd be third gear through that final corner rather than second.
Alright.
That'll help as well.
Are you third or fourth in that in turn one?
Definitely not fourth. Third for turn one.
So
and
that's part of the problem.
You were third on your previous run as well.
Yeah. I was fourth there.
Okay, so let's do this similar to last time. Just make sure we're slow enough in the middle that you can be really accurate. And then you can get the power really early.
There's an apex in there somewhere.
You still gained over your previous best through there, so just shows there's even more to come. Okay, good stuff. Some of this lap is definitely quicker.
Yeah, and I know, I want to see if I can explain, like, I knew as soon as I started to turn I was going to lose it, and I'm trying to figure out why. Maybe it's because I was braking still?
Yeah,
I knew it
think,
as soon as I did it.
Although I can't see that on the replay screen, it feels, I'm watching it over and over, it feels like you braked and then stayed on the brakes in, and I'm almost certain it's because you braked quite late, so you were forced to, yeah, you definitely braked later than I would for that tight left-hander where we spun, and that means you just still got to have quite a lot of brakes on when you make that turn, and this car is just so sensitive to that. Let's do another lap, if these tyres can hang on. Remember, it's third gear for turn 1. And then just get it turning over that curb, gentle early power, go. Yeah, way better. Okay, so we've got quite a big time gain there. That's a good start. Good start. Okay, so the next thing to think about, because obviously this bit's all just easily flat out, in this bus stop chicane, use quite a lot of the right-hand curb. So when you enter the chicane, cut it a bit more than you did on that last lap. That, I'd say, was a bit less than you did on the last lap. And what that means is, that means you're having to use more steering angle in the right. If you turn in enough early on that you're going to cut that curb more, you'll have way less steering angle on when you actually get to the curb. The reason that tried to kill you was because by being that bit wider, the track's obviously narrower and you need more lock. So that's why that one didn't go so well. Turn 1 was good, though.
I think I had too much speed, and I was just understeering into it. I couldn't get it turned.
I'm going to go look back at that because I think you just turned late. I'm going to watch it. No, you just turned really late. You just turned really late. But it will have felt like understeer because if you turn late, you've got less time to get it done. Your speed at the curb was 20 kilometers an hour slower than mine is, so it's not understeer. It definitely feels like it though. That was understeer for sure.
Yeah.
I told you this car was horrible and hard. I just told you way too late for you to not be committed to the race.
Bill's fault.
Yeah. Okay, so it's good there. That's third gear. I know I said that would be our last lap. Let's just do another one because turn 1 was good on that last one. We still don't have a representative lap from this run. So down to third, get to the flat part of the curb, smooth throttle. That's a decent effort through there. Look, much, much better. We didn't even get on the curb. Yeah, but it was still better. So imagine how much better it would be if you did exactly that and hit the curb. So that's the target, but that's fine. I'm happy with that.
Turn in.
So yeah, we're going to go in a bit shallower. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a hard turn. It just has to be an earlier turn to make it to the curb. So use all the curb. That's more like it. That's more like it. Well done. And then back on the gas hard. Yeah, good. So I know it wasn't quicker than your best, but that's because you're having to second guess yourself a bit. Yeah, I'm happy with this so far. So whatever happens on the rest of this lap, just complete it, because I want to at least use the data from the first half, because you are miles up. So just be really patient with the gas here. Nice one.
Yeah, that just feels like it's taking forever.
Yeah. And for the next left-hander, make sure we're not braking hard when you have to turn. So brake a little earlier and just do it mega slow and gently. And just be as accurate and smooth as you can. Yeah, look at the time. Look at the time gain. Amazing. And stay in third for this one. It's fine to get up to fourth and back down to third like you did there.
I realized I'd done that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's use that as our lap. I know it wasn't quicker in the end. That's only because you lost like a second or something through the final sector.
What did I do there?
I think you just went, like, you really overslowed it for the final corner, that was all. But up until that point, you were like 6 or 7 tenths up. So let's just hop out of the cockpit and we'll look at that one. You're going to see exactly where that time went. But so much of that lap was a huge improvement. So I'm happy with that. It's just not easy. It's just really, really not easy to get the time out of this car. Let's find it. So it's this one here. Yeah, you had a couple of purple sectors on that one. Right, we're going to make that one green. Okay, so let's look at... Yeah, so before we look at the rest of the lap, this is why it wasn't faster. You went through the final corner dramatically slower than normal. What's that speed? So yeah, like 30 kilometers an hour slower than you normally would through there. So that's what all the time...
there. Jeez. That's a lot of brake.
Yeah, and you can see on the Delta, you're like significantly up, and then in that one corner it all goes. So that's fine. That's it's nice when you can put a finger on where. And having said that, it's not just there. The bus stop, despite the technique I think being a bit better now, you still lost time through there because you're having to do it in an unnatural way. So there's a couple of corners, the bus stop there and that corner where you went from being significantly up on your previous best to being quite a lot down, and then you had to like fight back through the middle of the lap, and then we lost it again. So there is a good, what's that time there? So 3.6. Wow. Okay, so that's like 8 tenths in the bus stop, and that is like a 9 tenths in the final corner. So those two you're gonna be way faster. So let's just have a look at the beginning. So you're now going in quicker than me. Okay, so you've completely split the difference in the middle of the corner, so minimum speed's good, but it's harder for you because actually you're trying to brake later than me. And it's hard to see this when I'm watching the live view. When we zoom in, although the actual point you start touching the brakes is quite similar, when you actually get on the brakes properly, it's like it is that much later. You can see that you're smoother with the application, and so your maximum or your kind of ramp up is a bit behind mine. And you can see that means you go in way faster, which means it's always going to be harder to make the apex. So you're off the throttle, how many meters? Nearly 20 meters later. So you can slow down slightly earlier, basically, and just focus on the accuracy. You somehow managed to still be pretty accurate on that lap, despite braking so much later. Sorry, I'm talking rubbish. I was looking at the red. It's the green. It's the green was that wasn't it?
No,
so,
the green.
So actually it was much later. Yeah. So you're trying to carry more speed by going in that much faster, and your peak braking is much later and much higher. So yeah, basically just slow it down a bit earlier, and you can focus on that accuracy. Then you won't be like now, hoping this was the right turning point. You've got a bit more time to just like load up the steering and get it in, as you need it to. And then you'll just get a quicker exit. But you still were way faster. So you found a decent middle ground. You can now just keep the good apex whilst, and maybe improve it slightly, whilst going in a bit more under control. Then the bus stop. Right, let's break this one down because this is a key area. Why was it slower than you did before? Okay, so it wasn't slower than you did before on the way out of the bus stop. So you're getting the benefit of third gear here onwards. So here to here, that is obviously a bit better. So that's good. So that bit's working. But here to here, it's obviously slower. So let's look at why. So you're braking actually quite similarly to how you did before, but you can see how you're trying to do the thing I said, which is 2 braking events, here and here. But the difference is the first one is still quite hard and quite early.
Yep.
So that's why we're going in that much slower. Let's look at the video of it. So let's just watch how it looked. You can actually see how the car really rotates quite quickly when you turn in. Because you're braking hard, it's like, boom, look at the angle the car goes from here to here. It's like really deliberate. Actually, it looks quite nice. But I think what we can see from the data is that there's and yeah, look how we've still got brake lights on quite hard all the way in through here. So I think there's a slightly better compromise, which is essentially, as hard as this looks, braking a little later, a little softer, and you won't have that horrible oversteer snap that we had on a couple of laps where you go in and the rear just kind of lets go and fires you off to the right. It's because I'm just not braking as hard. That's why. So we want to still go in a little quicker, but just smooth and early. I tell you what, now we've got this video here, let's look at like the point that you actually turn in. So at the 200, so peeling away from the white line just after the 200, and we really go in tight just before the 100. Let's see if this looks any shallower. Okay, so yeah, you can see. You know, I said you were starting to peel away at the 200. Look, I'm already coming off the white line here.
Yep.
So I'm already coming off and braking here, and you know, and I said your big turn was just around the 100 or so. I'm like already halfway there, and that just basically means the steering is so much less because I've started it. I've initiated the turn really early, and look how the brake lights are now off because it's all done. It's kind of, although I'm braking gently, and it's later because of the angle. I don't feel the need to carry on because I'm already facing the way I want to go effectively, which is straight towards here. That's the big difference. So it's just going to take a little while to get that, you know, feel that difference from the cockpit. Yeah, it's just how early you decide. So I'm just like looking over here the whole time. I'm like, now, shallow. That's mainly it. That's mainly it. That is the next step. So you've done this bit.
I see that.
Now you're down to third and you're blasting out of the corner better. That's good. And you've gone in the right direction with doing two kind of braking events. But what we want is brake slightly later but less, but it's the turn-in point that's the key. Because it seems like pretty under control for my car, even though I'm going in a bit quicker. And it's all because I'm actually not turning very hard at that point. So that's it. That's the next thing there. So, in fact, let me make a note there so I don't forget. We need to aim for a shallower entry line, meaning an early, if I can type, gentle steering input. Coupled, well, I wish I could type better. This would make this section so much easier. Coupled with later, gentler braking. But you'll get away with that because you're going straight. The reason you're not getting away with the later, gentler braking at the moment is because there's a point in the corner where you're having to apply quite a lot of angle, and the car can't cope with that. So we're basically straightening out the entry to the bus stop. Right, and then we got this. This is better. This minimum speed here is much better. So the previous corner was like quite similar. So through here, the big difference is you're entering that corner way faster than you were before because you're exiting the bus stop faster. You're probably entering it a little bit too fast. So I've begun a bit more of a trail brake on the way in, and you haven't. So you've gone a little bit deep here. So if there's anything you can change in the corner after the bus stop, it's try and stay tighter longer. Don't peel away from the inside back here. Try and stay tighter around this phase as well. And then
I'm used to not even needing to apply brake on that curve, so...
Exactly. Now you're coming in faster.
Turn.
I mean, look, you're going 20 kilometers an hour-ish, or 15 to 20 quicker than you were before, so yeah, you're going to need a bit more nibbling of the brakes just to keep it tight. You're still going to peel wide, but just a lot later than that. But yeah, let's look at this next one, because this was where there was a big time gain. You could see it on the Delta, and you can see it on the data really clearly. Mm-hmm. And you're still going in quite a lot later than me. So there's still scope to go in earlier, but even the line you're doing, it's just way better. There's nothing else to say, really. You just... And, oh, look, you're staying a gear higher. So you could try that in second. Just obviously being careful. That'll help your rotation. If you're finding it won't turn in well, you could go down to second. Just keep that in your back pocket. It's obviously not hurting you too much in third. It's not a stupid idea to do it in third. You'll have an easier job with the traction on the exit. But yeah, there's potentially some extra rotation if you do it in second. But you're only a few kilometers an hour difference to me in the middle of that corner. Then we've got this next one where before you were going in a bit too quick. You're now, to compensate, going in slower, but I think you're going quite a lot tighter than you were before, and you are. Look at the red exit line compared to what you're doing now. So even though you're going in a bit slower than before, actually, I think the Delta was better. The one difference is this middle part here, where because you're going in slower, you're on the power quite a lot harder earlier than me, and that's pushing you a little wider just here. So there's that point there where you're 5 kilometers an hour quicker than I am, right in the tightest point of the corner. That's why you kind of go a little wide here. That's all. And I'm actually also down to second gear for that one, and you're staying in third. So that's probably also, that might be tempting you to get on the power earlier because you're that gear higher. It feels like the revs are completely dead. So you're like, come on. So consider second for that one as well. And yeah, and you can be slightly tighter on the exit part. But that'll allow you to be harder on the gas when you get on. This is such a common thing that you see on data in a corner like this. But you're on the power earlier than me, but you're on full power much later than me. Because I'm letting it rotate for longer, keeping it tighter for longer, and then when I get to the power, I'm able to go bam all the way up to full, and obviously then the exit benefits from that. So, but you've gone in the right direction. You can just be slightly quicker in, slightly slower in the middle. Try second gear. That should allow you to come off faster. But you've gone in the right direction. And then let's look at final section. We know the last corner sucked, so ignore that one. But this looks better.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so you're not trying to go in too fast at this stage. You can see how the red line was just well wide. So in terms of the line, that's definitely better now. You're a little bit quicker than me through the middle. It's not hurting you massively. It's meaning you're going wider on the exit. As long as you get back across, that's fine. And you do. You do manage to get back across. So don't worry too much about that middle bit being a bit quick. The exit's a tiny bit slower, but all round, that's better than you were before. You now just need to try and still go in a bit faster whilst getting down to this minimum speed the same as you were on that green lap. So there's a little bit more braking
green
distance.
Is the one. Green's is the last one that I did.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you
I
can
should be in second gear too, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Second gear. I didn't even notice this. Probably because it just looked like you were being nice and smooth and keeping it under control. Again, you're right. Yeah. Second gear is technically the better one, but you're gonna have to have more throttle control, and it will try and spin you round on the entry, obviously, when you go down to second. So just be aware of that. But slightly later braking as well. So 3913, yeah, 15 meters later braking. So even if you just go a bit, you can't really judge 15 meters very easily in iRacing, but just slightly later than you currently are. And then we've got this one. This is way better through here. This is just much, much better. So, although you're braking later, or you're slowing down later on the speed trace, slowing down a little bit more in the middle just out of caution, but you are going deeper, so that makes sense. You're weighting wider here. But then you're coming off better. So the middle part of the corner is just way, way better, because you're not already tight to the inside and having to wait. And again, you're staying in third there, but again, you could be second. Just bear in mind when you use second for all these corners that we're talking about, because look, you can see green, 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 green. There's 4 corners where I'm in second and you're still in third. Yep. Just bear in mind it will make it easier to lose the rear both on entry and exit. So if you're finding it's doing that and it's just too difficult to control, go back to using third, because you're not losing that much time by being in third. And then penultimate corner, you've gone in slightly quicker. We still haven't nailed this one, so we can still lift quite a lot later and carry a little bit more speed. Although now we're talking 5 kilometers an hour through the middle, so it's not huge. That's the big one. Just don't wimp out in the final corner. Yeah, just don't brake that much and that early. Yeah, let's look at your replay and see why. I don't know why that happened. I was probably talking to you at the time.
I might have even been talking.
Let's have a look here. I think we came off the penultimate corner a bit wide as well, like a bit. No, that's fine. No, you didn't get all the way left. You didn't get all the way across, but it was just an abundance of caution, and you can see how slow you're going by the fact that your car allows you to drive on the grass. You shouldn't be going slow enough. You shouldn't have enough grip to get to the grass. And look, you turn and it goes, yeah, fine. Yeah, I can go all the way over here if you want. Right. There's no way I could get it to do that. So yeah, you can just see. You could almost have entered the pits. You could almost have driven straight in. So yeah, just go faster through the last corner. That's simple. So let me just make a couple more notes before I forget. All right. And then I'll let you go. So we've already done that. This left-hander. I cannot hit the right keys. I've told you this before, but my keyboard's tiny. It's one of those little portable ones, so that's my excuse. So that's much better. Here, right, okay, this one I'm going to say, consider second gear. And stay tighter slightly longer. To allow earlier and harder throttle. Okay, that's that. This was better. I'm just going to write 15 meter later braking. And second gear. And again, this is better, but just second gear and careful on throttle because of that. Penultimate corner. Slightly higher entry speed. If you can. But it's not a huge drama, that one. You're not losing a lot. Final corner. Brake. I'm going to make that one red. Brake way less than this. Third gear. But still, I won't write this part, but obviously still don't go in so late and fast that you can't make the apex. It's just accuracy, but at the kind of speed you were doing before. That's it. Let's name this here. And that's, why won't you let me type? And we are at Watkins, boot, and we're in Ferrari. Okay, there we go. Right, saved. Okay, I'm going to stop our recording and upload that. Hopefully you've got some direction. I know I've done a lot of talking in this session, and we haven't like nailed all the stuff we're talking about, but I think it's quite clear where the time is. I mean, on this lap, for sure, it's the bus stop. That's the real big one. Bus stop, and then some fine-tuning.
Work on, yep.
Yeah, it's mainly just like the tweaking. Now it's like fine-tuning because we haven't nailed the entry speed and the accuracy everywhere. It's just getting used to the car, doing it like we've been speaking about in this run. But good job, man. I'm going to just upload that video.
All right, we'll see. Things have not gone well in the formula racing, regrettably.
Okay. In what way?
Just, well, it's at Suzuka this week, and
Yes.
I had some. I like Suzuka, but other people don't seem to like Suzuka very.
Okay.
I don't know. I did 3 races on Tuesday. I had 3 DNFs. One was completely my fault. I just spun out, but like the other 2, it's people spinning out, not holding their brakes, going across the track, and I'm just kind of doing my own thing. So I don't know.